So lift up 2 pieces together, soaking. So you could scale this if you wanted to, but you really should, with this amount, use it all up. 200 grams for the whole cake. You should use. Just try to divide it up by eye. Okay, evenly soak it. Now you have to, oops, sorry, I used kirsch. You know, you could use a striping layer or not. Just be careful that you're not putting too much because you have sugar syrup. Sugar syrup, it's very sweet. Just a little bit for some orange flavor I thought would be nice. Spread it out.
That's orange or?
Orange marmalade, yep. More. Sometimes people strain out the zest, but I kind of like it. Or if you want,
That's what I did at work yesterday.
Strained it? Yeah, or you could Roboku it, so it's smoother. This brand in particular is a little bit chunky, but I don't mind it. But it's a preference. It's like jam with seeds or not, you know. Some people like seeds, some people don't. Okay. Then you're filling, so you can divide this up in half. My eye. Spread it out evenly. Try not to go all the way to the edge. Leave a little gap so it doesn't squeeze out when you press it on top. Next layer on top. Okay.
So Chef, the striping layer is the syrup and the jam? Or just the
Striping
jam?
layer is the jam. So I went with orange because of the flavor. Usually I use raspberry because the idea is when you cut into it, you say stripe. That's why it's called a stripe. And we only say that here. There's no other place I work where I call it a striping layer. It'll just be jam on your cake. I'm just going to divide up my berries. So I'm going to do raspberry apricot. Peach and raspberry goes together well too. For these guys, I want to spread them out. I don't want a huge piece of them, so I'm gonna slice them up. Make sure if you're using any kind of fruit that you're strained well, but you're also cutting it so it lays flat. You're not sticking a piece up, you know, standing, or a big chunk of strawberry or something. Okay. Just fill them up. You could dice it too if you wanted to. You want big pieces. Get a nice even distribution that way. Good. Next guy. Top off. It's less fragile than picking up each layer at a time. You notice how I kept them all together when I did that, right? Now press down. You guys see the texture, right? You see all that crumbly, dry. It's kind of cool to stare at it if you had a lot of time. Texture, and it looks just like a sponge. All right, and then when I'm pressing down, the pastry cream should come just to the edge now. I don't want it to be overhanging. Why do I not want it to squeeze out? I mean, technically it's the same kind of color as it won't really show up, but yeah, if you have a different color filling or different texture filling, you don't really want to have the filling popping out. If it was really dramatic, like chocolate pastry cream with whipped cream, I would do that wall, right? We talked about a wall, yeah?
No.
We didn't. Okay, so the wall of the frosting. So whenever you're doing a filling, that's not the same. The filling is not the same as the frosting, or it's softer consistency, like lemon curd, for example, or something. You pipe a wall of your frosting, so it could be buttercream, whatever you're icing with, a little like tube of it around the outside, and you put your filling inside of it so it doesn't squeeze out. That's all it is. Yeah. Fruit fillings, those kind of things.
And what's your stock syrup again, Chef?
Kirsch.
What is kirsch?
It's a cherry.
It's cherry.
Cherry eau de vie.
We can pick from any of those that are there.
Any of those, yep. Careful spreading, especially your middle layer. If it's thinner, you don't want it to tear. So too much, it's also hard to spread. Like the cake just falls apart. So there is too much. You know, if you slice into your cake and liquid oozes out of it, it's probably a little too much soaking. Just enough to kind of absorb it in so it's not dry. All right, the remaining custard or pastry cream filling. Divide it. turntable, make sure you use it for your benefit. I'm keeping my body and my spatula the same way. I'm using the turntable to spread it out. All I have to pay attention to is if I'm holding my spatula evenly. Right? Paste some of our raspberries. Apricots.
It's like a light cake, like a summer cake.
Very, yeah. Nice. Very good. Like, I mean, I say this and strawberry shortcake are probably the most popular cakes I've made at places for during summer, especially. Because people, you know, in the summer don't want to eat something like chocolate mousse cake or even buttercream. What's the one negative about this kind of cake, though?
Can't keep it out.
Oh
Keep it
yeah.
out, yep.
'cause
Shelf life and
with the
can't
whipped cream and everything, you gotta keep it
in the summer.
refrigerated.
Yeah, it's got to be
Gotta
cold.
Keep it in the fridge till it's weird. It's like a good
Yeah, so
4th of July.
this cake would always have to stay refrigerated.
Yep, you serve it cold, definitely.
You can keep like 3 days.
Tops, max, max, yeah. Sold that day, yeah. I mean, but I'm saying you're saying at home, right? Like you would eating it once you sell it. Yeah, they're sold that day. But I'd say max. You keep it really
Like
technically
leftovers.
pastry. Yeah, leftovers. Pastry cream you're not supposed to keep more than 3 days anyway with eggs. Places do it, but all right. Doesn't matter which side. You could flip it the other way if you wanted to too. You just want it to be level. All right. Don't forget that last soaking on top. That's important. And I have just enough left.
So why are we using soaking if the cake is so sponge?
Because it's dry. So it's so spongy in a dry way. With all the cornstarch, just cornstarch and cake flour that make it very dry. I mean, if you taste the tops, you could probably get it, but it's very coarse tasting and it's plain. There's no flavor at all in it. So it needs a little liquid to soak it up. And that was it. Done. All right, let me move this out of the way so we can move on to frostings. We're gonna keep going. Is that okay with you guys?
Yes,
Yes,
Chef.
Chef.
So if you let your pastry cream sit in the fridge, your whipped cream sit in the fridge while you're working, you make sure that you check it before you go to use it. You still want the consistency to be right. So sometimes as whipped cream sits, it gets more liquidy, so you have to adjust.
Well, you would have to put it back on the KitchenAid, or you could just whisk
Depends.
it back real quick if
Yeah,
it's not
if
so
it's-
bad.
If it's not super liquidy, you have more control doing it by hand. I just hate when it was that soupy in the very beginning when I showed you when I first stopped it. I wouldn't whisk it by hand for that. But if it's just a little bit, also the bottom of these bowls, they tend to get soupy in the bottom. But this is actually pretty good use. I can stir in the bottom and get it to where I need without putting it on the machine. At this point, you tend to overmix it if you put it on the machine. But I'm kind of scraping the bottom so I check there and see. So this is definitely soft, right? Say soft, medium peak, not firm. Right in the middle. But I can pick it up with a spatula. That's what I want. So just let's have a little review on our frosting with the turntable. All the center first, right? We're gonna do the top first. More than what you need. You don't want to pick up crumbs. Okay. Again, make sure your cake is centered. Try not to have crumbs on here. You'll pick them up. Start from the center and spread. And turn at the same time. It's a little practice turning at the same time as while you're spreading, but it'll help you. Then when I get to here, I can just hold my spatula one direction and turn my turntable to get a nice flat top. Remember, the more you spread the whipped cream, the more you're gonna get lumps and start to break it. So don't go back and play. Try to just have even strokes, and that's kind of it. You can't keep going over it. You have less working time with whipped cream. It's also why for your practical, we let you use buttercream. So you don't have to worry about the temperature really that day. You don't have to worry about overplaying with it. Then I'm picking up the frosting. You notice that I'm doing it with the back of the spatula because I want this straight edge to apply to the side of the cake, like so. This way I can see that I'm holding my spatula vertically up and down, as opposed to this way, which you end up curving it in, right? So back of the spatula, pick it up, apply the buttercream, and just kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle to apply to the sides. If you're doing this and you notice the whipped cream like soups right off, give it a couple more spins with the whisk. Means it's not firm enough. All right, so I'm just touching it and filling in the gaps. I'm not really worrying about smoothing it out, you know? I'm sealing in any like little marks or little gaps, I should say. Don't put too much, because then if it starts flowing off of this, it's just wasteful, because you're not going to use it again. Okay. Make your way around the whole outside. Almost there. Big cake. Okay, and then seal. So this part should be that there's no cake showing. Just picking up a little bit that was on the bottom of the turntable. Okay, there's no cake showing. This is, it's kind of like a nice home style look. You leave it like this. We want it smooth. So you could either hold your spatula and turn the turntable to do that, or now that it's at this point, I like to show, and I think people have better luck with this, either with your metal bench scraper or a plastic bench scraper, the straight side in front of you, so you have this edge that you're going to hold straight up and down. It's the same thing using a spatula, only sometimes it's a little bit more challenging to hold the straight edge when you turn your hand. So I'm going to slowly apply pressure and turn the turntable at the same time. Now you don't have to go super fast or super slow, and if you have too much that comes off, sorry, I wanted to show you without dropping it. I didn't go around the whole side of the cake because then I would have just kept building that up, right? So I'm halfway through, which is fine. I'll show you what I mean, right? I can start back up again, just overlapping. If you press too hard, you'll see the cake. So we gotta release some pressure. And you get a straight edge that way. If you noticed, can you see if I'm standing this way? If you hold the spatula like this, not straight, you're gonna have that mountain kind of thing, right? And the same goes the other way if you hold it upside down or vice versa, right? The only way to fix that is to apply, or if you show cake through, is to apply more whipped cream. Now you don't want to do this too many times again, because the more you play with this cake, the whipped cream, the more it's going to break on you and not be smooth anymore. So don't do what I just did intentionally. But if it is not straight, you go back and apply more whipped cream so it's straight. All right. Again, holding it vertically, straight up and down. This is touching the turntable, so it gives me a guide. I'm not just freehanding it. And at not 90 degrees, because that just scrapes off the cake, about 45 degrees, maybe a little bit less. Press it to the side. And I'm just putting enough pressure that I see an even spread, right? If you notice it's not touching the side of the cake, then you're not applying enough pressure. Work your way. And then when you get to the end, you just kind of like wipe off, right? So it blends into it.
Chef, I'm just curious. Are we ever going to use combs?
We could use combs. It's the same technique, and I could get cake combs for today if you wanted to try that. We use combs for the carrot cake, but that was more on the top of the cake.
Yeah.
But if you use the comb on the side, it's the same technique as holding it up against the side.
Like
Yeah.
45, a little less degree angle.
Yeah, but you hold the comb the same way with the teeth this way. You
Yeah.
can scrape across. Yeah, I can grab some. Now at this point, I'm going to bring those edges in, not straight across, right? Just the edge, top edge, trying to make it nice and level. So I wipe and come up. Wipe and come up. Always wipe your spatula off so you don't drip whipped cream in between again. And that's it. So I'm looking for straight sides, straight top. There's a couple little holes here, that's fine. It's already starting to break a little bit, so don't keep going back and forth because it'll break even more. Then you can decide if you want to cover the whole sides with candied almonds or sugared almonds, or we have some chocolate curls, chocolate shavings that were left over, you could use. Then it's up to you. We're not going to type a bottom border, so it's up to you if you want to go back onto a 10-inch cake, or if you want to go 10 onto a 12-inch board, then you're going to need a big 12-inch box to go home with. It's up to you. It's safer that way, but it's up to you. I'm just going to put these along the bottom edge. So nice for some texture. You don't have to cover the whole thing.
You keep them in the fridge, but like, how long can you leave them out?
Depends on where. If you're like outside of the barbecue, not that long, you know? In a house, an hour. Not
I'll
much.
make it home.
Yeah, like when you get home, that's it. But if you're in sun versus an air-conditioned house, you have a little bit more time. All right, and then you're gonna place it on your board. So I want you guys to get to this point, and tape it, obviously. I want you to get to this point. I want you to put it in the fridge. We're gonna evaluate how much whipped cream you have left over, and we're going to pipe. I want to pipe a border, so I don't want you to put anything on the sides. We're also going to write on these cakes. Okay? So get to this point, put this cake in the fridge, and then when we get there, I'll walk around and see how much whipped cream you have.